Mark Daly with the Task Force Online with two legal eagles. In fact, part of a much bigger legal team that were sitting right next to their laptops today when the Supreme Court handed down its rulings on marriage equality, or that had a direct impact on marriage equality. Conor and Trevor, who are both fellows here at the Task Force. So, Conor, tell us first of all what fellowship you have here at the Task Force.
Yeah, so I'm a Ford Foundation Fellow this summer. I'm a 1L at Harvard Law School, and I'm joined by one other Ford Fellow at the National Gay and Lesbian Task Force this summer.
Okay, great. And Trevor?
I'm a Hawley Law Fellow, also here at the Task Force, and I just finished my second year at UCLA School of Law.
That's great. So let's talk a little bit about what it feels like to try and break down one of these opinions, because we've all been big fans of SCOTUS blog, and in fact it's sort of entered everyone's vocabulary now, this term SCOTUS blog. But they did a great job in getting the information out to a lot of people very quickly. What is it? What do you actually do to try and figure out an opinion apart from read it off of SCOTUS blog?
So the first thing you do is try to get over the excitement. Talking probably for Trevor as well, this is one of the reasons that I went to law school, to cover cases like this, to work at places like the National Gay and Lesbian Task Force. So as soon as your nerves calm down, you get the summary a little bit. You start reading the summaries in the actual cases. You start searching for specific terms, and very quickly today we knew that we would have a favorable outcome, specifically in DOMA. We just didn't know to what extent that would extend and how good the news would be. But I think we're all very pleased with the outcome today.
And then of course Proposition 8, which was sort of sandwiched. We had DOMA, and then we had another ruling, and then we had Proposition 8. When did you realize, Trevor, that Proposition 8 was dead?
Well, actually, we got lucky. The Proposition 8 case was cited in the DOMA case. They made reference to it, and Chief Justice Roberts' dissent, he talks about how Proposition 8 was struck down on the standing ground. And so we got lucky. While we were looking at the DOMA case, we figured out what was going on with Prop 8. SCOTUS blog did the same thing, and so we knew at about 10:30.
That's terrific. And then, of course, there was other things we were looking for as well. As soon as we realized that DOMA was struck down and that Proposition 8 was held to be unconstitutional, there were other things you were looking for as well, right, that would maybe even make the decision even more wide and far-reaching.
Yeah, so one of the interesting things that we weren't exactly expecting was the reason that specifically DOMA would be struck down. It could have been a split decision. It turned out to be struck down on equal protection grounds, and so we were searching for the actual specific test, the level of scrutiny that would be applied. That would have implications for state-level marriage cases, all sorts of anti-discrimination litigation in the future, and it's actually kind of interesting now because that question has not exactly been answered. All the smartest minds in legal academia, including the guy standing right next to me, we're excited to see where this goes, and we think it's good news, but there is a substantial amount of lack of clarity still to this day in terms of what test will be applied.
We hear this term equal protection a lot, and I suppose just for the benefit of the non-lawyers and for people who hear it and maybe don't quite know what it means, tell us what it actually means, equal protection.
So it comes from the 14th Amendment, which was passed back in the 1800s, that says, and in part says that no person shall be denied the equal protection of the law. And so over the course of about the past 150 years, I guess, the court has interpreted that to mean that for groups that have a history of being politically powerless, of being attacked, such as racial minorities, women, and other minority groups, we're hoping to include the LGBT community in that in the future, get a special amount of protection. So the heightened scrutiny that Conor was talking about is for these groups that have had the long history of discrimination. And the Supreme Court decided not to elevate the LGBT community to that today, but they're still the lowest rung, which is known as rational basis. And the court decided that DOMA failed rational basis, essentially, and so they struck it down.
So, having said all of that, I guess that you're probably looking for your next adrenaline fix. So what's the next big thing that you gentlemen might be looking out for? in terms of legal decisions that impact the LGBT community?
Well, so today was the last day that this term was in session, so we won't be hearing anything until, I guess, next year, is it? Yeah, October. However, I think that this is kind of the tip of the iceberg, not only in terms of gay marriage, but in terms of all other LGBT issues. So we're still holding out for a heightened level of scrutiny. We're still holding out for the clarification of how trans people are incorporated within specifically Title VII and lots of other issues. And I think that gay marriage might be the most high-profile case, but we are really looking forward to the vindication of LGBT rights in all other aspects, whether it be immigration, working, adoption, taxes. So.
And there's a lot of devil in the detail here because, as we speak, people are asking questions like, how does this affect me or my partner and I, or my husband or wife and I, in this state that happens to have a constitutional ban on same-sex marriage? All of those questions still have to be fully fleshed out, right?
Yeah, I think the big push now comes to the Obama administration. There's a couple of ways that the federal government can handle determining who is married, and the rule that is best for the LGBT community is known as the place of celebration rule. So basically, if you go to a state that allows same-sex marriages and you marry your partner and then go back to a state without marriage, the federal government would still recognize your marriage for the sake of all federal benefits. And so right now it's a little murky on how the Obama administration will put these new rules into place, but we hope it'll be a lot of place of celebration rules to greatly expand rights to LGBT couples across the country.
Well, on that expansive note, Conor and Trevor, thanks for all your help today.
Thank you, Mark.
Thank you.